I always forget to hit this button over here. Anyways, hey folks, welcome to where is it? There it is, the High Note V podcast here live on YouTube. Thank you. Oh, there's that button over there. I was talking about. Hey folks, hit that mute. Well, mute. Sorry about that. Anyways, my guest today is Brigitte Witzenhause. Did I almost get that right? I want you to.
Oh, almost. So we
Oh my.
practice. Brigitte Witzenhause.
Witzenhausen.
Witzenhause.
Thank you. A brilliant composer. I'm really excited to have her with us today. We are going to be talking with her. And before we start, I just want to put out a special thanks to PieBox and Slack for allowing us to use their tools to communicate, collaborate, and educate and have fun and get better in this journey as composers through our community called the Composer Exchange. If you're interested in these kinds of programs and participating in some educational, why would a phone ring in the middle of me trying to do this? Anyways, if you're interested in any of the programs that we do over at the Composer Exchange, go over to the website, fill out the form, send me a link, and let's get to know each other, and we'll see if we can plug you into the community. With that, thank you, Brigitte, for joining us today.
Yeah, sure. I'm excited to be here.
Well, you have been doing so much. You're such a multi-talented person. You have all these skills with music and composition, and we've done a lot of collaborations through the Composer Exchange and some of the classes that we've taken together and so forth. But you have this whole other dimension of you of being a very, very talented business professional as a project manager, and you're also an engineer.
Yeah.
You've done so many different things. Let's start with the beginning of kind of how you evolved, because you've got these parallel journeys, three really parallel journeys all at once, and you've excelled at all three of them. And so how did this all begin when you were maybe young, and what inspired you to play music and that sort of thing?
Okay. Yeah. So my journey into the realm of sound actually began with a childhood fascination for sound. And it was very interesting because I had in my early years nothing to do with music. I started in sports, and it was swimming. I never told you.
Oh, awesome. No, okay, so there's four things.
No,
What?
no, 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 no. It is connected. So this is interesting. I thought about it, and it's when you are living the life, you are not fully aware at each stage. But when you look back, then you can connect the dots and you see where everything led. Yeah.
How you built on everything. Everything
Exactly.
built on. Yeah.
Thank you. So and then I was super great in swimming. Backstroke was my specialty, and I even won medals and stuff. And I was preparing for being a professional swimmer. Thank God, and it never happened. It's actually a funny story. I tell you another later why I quit. But what really fascinates me early on, I was practicing. I had a personal trainer, a lady who was my coach, and I was going at until I was 12 or so. I did this, and I was every day I was in the pool. And so you have this contrast between immersion, so your body is into the water, and then also fully immersed, fully inside, also the ears, and then surfacing, and then outside of the water, inside, outside. And this, in the middle of this cycle, there is this plop. Your ears adjust, and I found this so interesting. I was totally practicing and swimming. This was the main gig, but actually I was so fascinated with this phenomenon that I was inside in a totally other realm. I mean, there's literature about it, like Michel Chion about the movie Sound in Movie. Like the story is, okay, the ears were developed first in the mother womb, and then you are born into sight. So this every so hearing and the ears is usually connected with being inside. inside, and in the water it was like being inside and then outside and plop and then back in, and this super fascinated me. Also other stuff like playing with a dollhouse and steering with a little spoon in the doll's pot, and I could sit there ages. It's like hearing how the spoon hits the walls, and so I was fascinated with sound. But then to, this is a real cool thing, this childish exploration. But when suddenly intellect came in, and then the whole thing gets spoiled. But no.
Too
So
serious?
I don't know, but so I started actually with the music. The journey went on with classical training. So when I quitted swimming,
Piano, right? You played piano.
yeah, but I started with keyboard. It was the 90s, and I quitted music, swimming, because of the TV series Alf. You know, this furry thing. I was in this age; it was super popular, and I wanted to watch it. And all my other friends were watching it, and then I thought, oh, and this is so funny.
That's why you quit swimming. I was, I had it on my list. I was like, you can't just let us sit here and lead us, like, tease us with a story that we want to hear.
Okay, this is the main reason. It's funny, but I was also I'm really happy, because otherwise I would be like, you know how the swimmer ladies look like, with this back like a man, and then I'm sure I'm super happy that I quit. I thank God, thank Alf that he was in TV, because
I don't know. I know a lot of swimmers that are females, and they look pretty womanly.
yeah,
So,
okay. But
but
also with the eyes, I had problems at the end with the eyes, because
I
they were
think the
red all the
chlorine.
time, and
Oh,
and
sure.
so I not regret it. So dot,
That's
and then
that,
I from this what we can take from here, from the swimming years, was you are on a lane. It's called lane, where you swim. It it trained me a lot of. I mean, maybe it's also part of my
give you the discipline, perhaps.
personality, yeah, but also the discipline and being focused and stuff. So it was um, um, some skills you can detach from the actual thing, and then you can see that this, yeah, maybe strengthened this
The other
focus
things that you do, yeah,
even
that's
more. But maybe it's also there, but yeah, it is maybe strengthened it a bit. And then I started with keyboard, and actually it came via my grandpa. He was a pianist. I mean, not professionally, but could really play very well. And even when he came back from World War II, he was so thin, because of he was in taken by the Russians, and no food, and he was so thin that he had to sort of identify himself for the family with his playing. He came back from World War II, and then he played, and then they knew, okay, it must be him. Like, this is utterly cool. So, and he gifted me. It was a birthday present, so a little Casio keyboard, nothing special, almost a toy. It what they bought it in a toy shop. But oh man, ooh, this was so interesting. And so, and then I wanted to have lessons, and I was in this keyboard school, and yeah, but what this brought me was a very good knowledge, early age, like 30 years back, 3 decades, like E minor, A minor, yeah, press all the chords and stuff
or
in
it
early
was the
beginning.
beginning of music theory for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's I find it the piano is a really good instrument to begin with, and it's I think it's music theory. I mean, maybe other instruments too, but I think the piano, yeah, I like the how it's
But the
organized.
visualization,
Yeah, the
you can see
visualization,
it,
and
and if
yeah,
you're a visual learner, because we all have different styles of
yeah,
learning, if you're a
yeah.
visual learner, a piano really helps you just there's a map. You know,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Yeah.
So and this was good. And then I and then I was had a special training in my high school. There was a special route you could take for having music as a subject. It was very not so usual. And I remember I awoke one day, and it was in the middle of the term, and I knew it sounds utterly weird, but I knew I need to switch to this music path, otherwise everything is lost. It was so strong. I have to say, something I have a strong intuition, and then suddenly it is totally clear, and I need to go there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I went there to the director, and a friend of mine was also in there, but I was late. During that time, at the over here in Europe, we have this yeah, a lot of culture, and then in this hometown there was a communal a theater, really, with all the funds, and in every we say Sparte, in every like arts, I mean opera, theater, plays, and dance and concerts, big theater hall with concert hall and everything. And there was a special school, and I became a member, so like youngsters of this, and I sang in Kurt Weill operas on stage, a very early age. And I had piano lessons and dance and directing and playing and everything. And during that time, I was so directing plays way before I knew that this is called directing. So it just
So it was a
happened.
natural, it was like just a reflex, just a natural.
Yeah, exactly. And we had this
Just,
this performances, but it was really high, at a very high level. And I was trained in like classical singing by a former singer of this theater, and she brought me into the music school. And then I started, because they always said, "Oh, you are so musical, you are so musical," but I had these singing lessons, and then I began piano lessons. But to be honest, it never clicked. It was when you do this, and I was good. I was practicing really well, and I tell you right in a few minutes where it went, and really boom. But it was okay. But I hadn't arrived. I have to say, I hadn't arrived. But I started with 16 the piano, and the teacher was so good. I was there the only beginner in her class. She had like award winners in under her belt, in her cosmos, and I was sitting there with a piano school, Russian piano school, with a teddy bear in front of it, part volume one, and playing, I don't know, little stuff, and then Chopin, and she managed to bring me on a level where I can enroll in a, like we say, Hochschule für Musik, like the where you study music, like Juilliard or something. And
conservatorio.
yes, exactly. And I did this in Berlin but this was really super important for me to have this special part of the Musikgymnasium, where I had this music as a major thing, and also there was a prestigious choir. So we had 3 times a week choir long, and then we had concert tours around Europe. We were singing in front of the Pope, in I don't know, in Italy, in Greece, and we were really traveling with concerts, and this was great. I'm
Oh,
not
that was with the choir
the
or
choir with this.
okay.
The choir was part of this special music abitur, like where you do the high school, and this was also had dorms for people who are not living there. They were traveling there just to be at this place, but I happened to live in this city, so I could be there
What
normal.
city was that? What city was that?
It's Gera. It's in Thuringia. It's in the middle of Germany. I mean, it's if you look at Germany, we had a western part and an eastern part. This was divided. Yeah? And I grew up in the east, in the wild east, and then, but when if you look at the map, and sees Germany, it's more or less in the middle. It's very green, it's very mild, beautiful nature, and it's very close to, maybe you also, you American know Goethe and Schiller, the classic writer, the writers of the classic era, and they were all centered in around Weimar. It's a city also in Thuringia, and it's very close. It's very beautiful nature. So I have to say, I was surrounded by a lot of green, and so
Now, just a geographical sense. Now
yeah,
the wall is down,
the wall
and
is,
you
yeah,
guys are united as a country now,
yes,
and it's a lot freer, and you get to experience the whole of.
exactly. If when the world fall down, or was taken down, or when the parts united, I was 10 or turning 11. It was very
Okay.
and this was actually also quite good, because if you know, such a it's a rapture in the history, also in the, for a person, how the life develops. Other persons had established, I mean, my parents, they had jobs and everything, and then the break, this break of society, and I mean, there was communism, and then there was social capitalism. It is a big thing for people to adjust, and I was lucky because I was a child, so I could say my childhood was in the GDR, that was the eastern part, and then I could go on a, yeah, normal, what's normal, but on I was good in
We're able
adapting.
to adapt a lot
Yeah,
easier.
I was
Yeah,
really good in adapting, and
good.
then but I when I then went out of this college, of this music abitur, and I chose to study in Berlin, because it has Berlin, and I'm still here in Berlin,
Yep.
living in Berlin, although I moved out quite often, and we will talk to this about this, but um I, this was also a decision to go in a city where there's both, mentality wise. So it there was a Eastern Berlin and there was a West Berlin, and this is really interesting, and this shaped the city quite a bit. So in a nutshell, there is no center, because we have everything more than twice. So two opera houses, two cities, two everything is twice, and there is no, it's very modern, postmodern. There is no center, and this is really interesting.
Oh, one of the things I learned, I used to be involved with the Joomla community, which is an international open source group of people that develop technology, this platform, and they're from all over the world.
A
One of
Joomla, okay, the interweb.
and one of the things that I really got out of that was by being experienced to a lot of different cultures and different perspectives just on the world and life and the way people think. It was especially interesting, a lot of the opinions about America, I got to tune into, but that diversity really helps open your mind. I don't care where
Oh, yeah.
you're from, if you connect with other cultures, and especially, and that's fascinating that there's such diversity just in Berlin itself. And I guess that's probably true in the US because you have a Southern culture, which I'm about to go and experience.
Yeah, you
Uh,
told me.
and then we have the Eastern culture, and I spent a lot of time in the Midwest, and I guess there's differences in each of these areas, even within our country. But when you see that, especially in a I guess a smaller geographical space, having that strong difference when you're so close, there was a wall. I mean, there was like
Yeah,
4 foot wall difference,
yes.
but different culture. That's really fascinating that you're able to absorb, that into your perspectives.
It gives it gives a more 3D view. Um, I feel I wouldn't, it's sort of stateless, I would say. I mean, how could you say this? I mean, we are, everybody has its own the lineage, just the history. So but I feel, as I use this as a home base, but then later on I also lived in Copenhagen. I also yeah, it's different, but I always came back. I even was in Harvard, but I will tell you, it is
But you,
red.
but that whole thing, you are part of your I think part of your
Identity.
right word, right, not necessarily identity, but the depth of your character and
Yeah.
the music that you're able to write is really because you have a real strong international influence,
Yes.
or experience, or insight, probably a better word. But then you still have your roots too in your training, and what I'm gathering is really a natural ability. You found music to kind of come naturally because it's related to your fascination with sound,
Mhm.
and then you pull those ideas. And one of the things I really love about your music, and I hope people will go to the link below when it's there. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
we go there.
speaking now, but yeah, hit the link below, subscribe and whatever. Anyways, but listen to our music. There's going to be a link there, and you're going to hear the depth of ideas and interesting perspectives in like timbres of different kinds of instruments that she blends, and the harmonic structures, as well as the crisp, clean engineering aspect of your work. But I think that's from gathering from not just a little narrow perspective. I
This
think
is maybe, yeah, sure, it will be a part, but maybe if I now I tell you what came next, and then you see the influences. So although I had these instruments, I wasn't. This was a time. It was late 90s. I did this Abitur, we say, this the before you study, you go to music conservatory. It was 1998. Um, there was still a time. Maybe it was possible, but it was still a time where this. I would never have called myself a composer, or I would never told as everybody or anybody I love would like to compose. It was not on my agenda because I played okay-ish piano and stuff, but this was not my instrument, and it was not mine. I Everywhere I went, it was you're so musical, but I felt not at home. And then I thought, okay, wait, I wanted to be around on music. I wanted to have to do with music, but I couldn't. I mean, I thought, okay, maybe becoming a singer, but for singer, I was also not bad in singing, in opera singing, really classical singing. But uh, I I thought, okay, to be a singer, I have so many interests, and I have also a clear opinion, and it's not good. I want to be the director. I had also a very strong visual vision, or I wanted to say how this is to be done, and this is bad for being a singer. But and then I thought, okay, why not study I studied music theater directing, which is sometimes translated as opera directing. Like for the opera, you need a director to say, okay, you are going from there to there, and blah blah blah, and or have a vision, have a concept how this all comes together, and and
that's more that's more than so there's one part of it that's the music direction.
Mhm.
Then there's the other that's the blocking, where people are moving
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then there's the other that's really the visual, that is the costumes and the
Yes.
setting and
There's
where.
also an intellectual part involved
Yes,
because I was more on the smarter side, and I was so interested, and I have maybe part of my DNA. I'm very analytical. Maybe this comes from my father's side. He is a mathematician and stuff. So
I
it's
can totally see that.
so
You're very,
I have
you put the pieces together. It's like a
yeah. So there's the analytical side, but then there's also a super irrational side. So, but I don't belong to the artists that do not know that they are, I don't know, have egg spilled on their t-shirt, and so I'm more appear more or less quite composed, but but I have also a very strong intuition and also a very strong visual side, and so I have these two parts. And if you at the beginning you asked me how this all came about, that you are doing these paths, you could see that yeah, this all needs to needs to be fed in a way. If I'm under utilizing my,
Nourished in each one of those departments. Yeah.
yes.
So it's like I could see. So like engineering.
Mhm.
Okay, so you go and you've got this fascination with sound. You have these incredible libraries of all these things that you've recorded for unique sounds. That's a lot of stuff to organize. So
Yeah,
you
sure.
get to have
Yeah,
your
yeah.
organizational hat on and the geek part of
It-
you.
It's
Yeah,
totally both. It's like
it's a
being a
different
totally
part.
geek and a totally nerd and a totally like an artist, and then but there that luckily the other part kicks in and saves me from utter chaos. And but to connect the dots, so I studied music theater directing, and this gave me, and to this day I feel like I'm directing, but I'm not directing in the usual way, but I'm directing with sounds. So this now we go where the sound came in on that's the sound design and the composing with sound. So
You're
I had
telling a story. You're telling a story with your
yeah, you
music.
tell us, and
It's
I see
exactly.
really clear visuals. So, and I had a scholarship from this prestigious place here called Academy of Arts. Every European land has this. The Swedish they give the Nobel Prize, and in France they have the Académie Française and other stuff. And here in Berlin, this is a society of the VIP artists of the country, and I became a scholarship recipient of this, and it was
Wow, that's an
super,
honor.
yeah,
That's
super
fantastic.
elite. And then I went to they had an electroacoustic music studio, but there was and someday all the scholarship recipients, so this is now where the studio comes into play. This is really crucial here. So it was around 2006. All the scholarship recipients are taken by cabs into this electroacoustic music studio. I'm not kidding. The moment when I entered the studio, just entered the studio, I knew I had found my instrument. This was my instrument. The studio was my instrument. I could see the
There you
recording
go.
room. I could see the microphones. This now the world goes on.
That's
And
your instrument.
now
And the music was just the
exactly,
pieces of it that you can plug together.
exactly.
And you're directing,
Yes,
that's your organization and you're putting the pieces
exactly.
together.
So I
That is
never
a
left this.
natural.
I became also a staff later on. I was working also in the artistic directing department. I was surrounded by the who is who. We had even Gary Jones from Depeche Mode. We had just every VIP that you can imagine, and I had, could you believe it, the old school way. Later on, I also did my diploma in this, but the first entry point was learning the audio engineering via the old school way with an engineer on site
With
looking over
knobs,
the
not.
shoulders.
That's it.
Now I take every time I do this, okay, take this. And this was so cool. I was observing such a wealth. So but then I still couldn't say, okay, I'm a composer, because I just not knew it. And this is maybe a part for the audience here, whoever needs to hear this. Follow your instinct. Maybe it has not yet a label. You cannot say this is this, or this is you could not write it down. This is, but later now I can see this led me to composing, but at this moment I had no clue at all. I mean, this is very fragile, and you need to be surrounded by really good mentors. Or I had the really an honor that I had this guy who was in charge of the studio, seeing my talent and nurturing me as a. I grew up artistically there in this studio, and then I did radio plays, but at this time I was also going into the humanities with a PhD project, and then but I couldn't stop from doing my first sound compositions. And because I was in the studio and I was maybe not that bad, I went into the national radio. We have a sound art broadcast stuff, and I did an hour-long composition. Another story, when I did this hour-long composition in the studio, it was about the Greek Antigone myth, and I staged it, but not on stage, but and it was highly cinematic, so everybody could hear. It was like I planned to I plan to publish it this year and make it available, because it's, yeah, you could hear where it all started. It's such a raw jewel, I have to say, because at this time I still didn't know that I was engineering. I was mixing way before I knew that this is a thing. So I just did it. And I started with Pro Tools, because this was in the studio, and it was not so commonly spread. I mean, I was quite lucky that I learned on Pro Tools, and then I wanted to have the sound of a wind, and I installed for this hour-long composition. I built a temporary wind arp from the one studio building to the other studio building, but there was no wind. Weeks there was no wind at all, and I was so sitting there and
a group of people blow now.
No, it wasn't. And then I could imagine one day the weather forecast said there is, I still remember it so vividly, a low named Daisy. And then they forecasted this Daisy low. And then I jumped in the cab, immediately called the cab. And then I went there, and then I sat in a highly inconvenient, uncomfortable position with a field recorder, with batteries and stuff, and to capture this stuff. And also the what I remember, when I first bought my first microphones, I was like on drugs. I bought this stuff, maybe you know it. It was called Soundman. You put it in your ears, but instead it's been out. But the technique has been oral. You put it in, but it captures the to the outside. It's like in-ear headphones, but instead of being headphones, it's microphones. And when you turn your head, it is like 3D immersive sound. I was so on drugs. I was absolutely ecstatic about it, and I couldn't stop recording everything around me. And I thought I had been given a new set of ears. I was so high, and this fascination is still with me to this day.
Have you played with Adobe Atmos mixing 7.1 and stuff like that?
Not yet, but I plan to start it this year. It's so interesting because
that's your instrument. You're gonna just fall in love with it.
I know. I did also later on. I'm not sure when it was. Also had an exhibition here in National Gallery for like where they have the Picassos and stuff, and I was given the chance to do a work about the painter Paul Cézanne in this National Museum of Modern Arts here, and I did a lot of surround installations here. It's like 7.1, 5.1. So this is not a new thing for me. So I'm highly accustomed to this.
Yeah. So you've done more sound design with 7.1 as opposed to mixing for your music.
Yes. Exactly, but as it is now, there was a time when several so immersive techniques were side by side and concurring each what in like was not clear who will win, but now it's clear the technique of now is Dolby Atmos, and it's highly featured by a lot of companies. So,
and we got to put a shout out for the for one of the companies that we're both involved with.
Yeah, both involved. Sphere Tracks. So yeah, this is exciting.
Last
week I signed the contract. I'm super excited. This is so interesting. This is a fantastic new platform over there in London, and it's all about licensing music, but as they say, the creative way. You know, the music licensing business. There's all this amazing LA that you can go into as a composer producer, but it sometimes comes with this old production music. This is not unique enough, but this company is really after the authentic music, the authentic artist, and I have a very good feeling about this, and that's why I signed this. And the specialty is that's why the name Sphere Tracks. Steffi, the owner, had this epiphany to set up this licensing business for the next generation, for the immersive applications, and that's why the sphere in the name. So they will deliver also on top of the usual things that
Area.
you expect in the Atmos, in Dolby Atmos, and they even have a collaboration with Dolby Atmos, which is outstanding. So this is, and we are both in this now.
It's a
Yeah,
cool clique to be part of, man. I feel
yeah,
really
it's really
because they're really I really, you know, Sefi is really a forward thinker
yeah.
and put together a good team. He's got a really great idea for the platform. It's really good if you're buying music. I think it's going to evolve, and it's really going to be a great
Yes,
place for us to be able to say, hey, go check out my music over here, and they
yes.
represent their deals are really you know, reasonable. You know, there's kind
Transparent,
of
highly transparent on the website. Great.
exactly, and he, because he's a composer, a really talented composer himself, he really kind of he has the empathy for making sure that the business model works for his talent. And the
Mhm.
beauty of that is that he's going to attract the best talent, which means that this library is really going to stand out for quite a while, because it's built into the DNA of the design that it's about the quality. Kind of like how, you know, Hans Zimmer has done a lot. I think it was you Bleeding Fingers. He's he's built a network around the success that
Yes.
you know, that he created, and the enterprise, and that attracted really some fantastic composers. And now it's like they're getting a lot of work because they're really good. And I think that that's going to be a benefit to all of us that are involved with this
Yeah, he
thing.
builds a community and the whole platform, and it's everything is pre-cleared. So if you are a music supervisor and watching this episode, so you
Check
are
out
so
Bridget's music on Sphere Tracks or mine. Yeah, check it out. You'll love it.
actually we are at the moment. I'm in the moment of stemming out everything. We are on the onboarding me there, so it's super fresh. So I have almost 30 new tracks on there. I'm super excited, and I was not so sure where to give them, because as a real artist, authentic artist, you know this too. You don't want to be some collecting dust on some library's shelf. It's a thing. You need to trust the company, and that they treat it good, and have the great connection. And I'm happy that this constellation came about.
It's a really cool thing. So back to you.
Yes.
Duffy, good luck, man. We're counting on you.
Yeah,
That's
put the
awesome.
link down below. So
Well, actually, I could put in Sphere Tracks link down below. That'd be good.
yeah,
So
yeah,
check it out,
good.
guys.
Yes,
Sphere Tracks, SPH.
yes,
Anyways, back to you. Uh,
yes.
so it's really cool. You found you evolved through your fascination with sound, and you developed your voice, your vocal skills. You developed your piano skills and your ability to read and comprehend music, and then applied that ability to kind of come up with a vision and direct either the music and the overall
Then I
concept
just
of
I discovered the studio as my instrument. So and
that's
then
what
I
I was
also
getting to. And then you
yeah,
discovered that that's really your instrument. That's fantastic.
yeah.
Um, and I've never heard anybody really say that before, but that's brilliant. You know, we all have that specialty that we are really
Yes,
good
everybody is different. I mean, and this is also the message here. We It's good to have some idols, and everybody has some it's inspiration points, but what's good for was worked for them maybe not works for you. I mean, you need to be yourself, and this is always the most powerful differentiator, to be uniquely you. But this is not so. This is I won't I can say, and I won't will not yeah, disguise it's not so easy. I mean, it's a cumbersome way. Now I can look back and say, okay, this lead to this, this lead to this, this lead to this. In meanwhile, I was I mean, okay, I was backed up by great companies I worked for. I was not so lost, but as an artist growing, and to really to trust yourself, and maybe back then it was not so crazy. Now if I mean 10 years ago, the the temperature in society and the technological involvement and everything was so, it was still, it was digital age, but it was a bit
It's
more,
evolving. It
more
was evolving.
analog. Now there's so much distraction. YouTube is exploding. AI is exploding. I mean, you can be distracted in every second. And back then it was a little bit more analog. So, and I have to say, I feel as a digital child, and what always fascinates, I'm not a digital native, by the way, but I'm 44, so the digital natives are younger. I know analog gear, but I was not around when they only produced with it. But it has always been a great fascination for me to dabble with the analog stuff, with the Super 8 and the tape machine, and there is this feeling. For me, it was always hard to play with the analog side, because if
Yeah,
everybody,
did you? I'm
yeah.
sure you did this, but I used to work in a little studio. We'd have the tape running around a mic stand, and then over to we'd have these little loops. Now
Yeah,
it's just a digital chunka, and
yes.
it's people take that for granted, people that are making beats and stuff like that. It's like we used to do that with a loop around the whole studio from one mic stand to another, and then it would go through the head. Then you could stop it, you'd put it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
reverse, and yeah,
exactly.
it
But this is great. This is experimenting, and then this also would also be a topic to speak about its limitations. I mean, we had not everything available. Now there's so much gear. We are flooded with options, but what do we really use and squeeze the hell out of it? And also maybe sound a little bit cultural depressed here, but I'm sure you agree that people have a shorter attention span
yeah.
nowadays, and not so. I think for art to happen, or let's say creativity in a broader sense, you need to have boredom. You need to free time. Time is a thing. No, unfilled time, so-called unproductive time. You need to be limited in the toys you play with,
In the
and
scope of
to
what you're doing.
in the scope, just and then do something with it that stick to a certain set of so toys
Boundaries,
or
really. Yeah, the boundaries.
boundaries. And
That,
now if it's so boundless, what's the opposite of boundaries? So no boundaries.
boundless, boundless, yeah, open. Yeah.
Less, it's not that good for creativity, because then you need to um mm,
Where do you land?
invent.
Where,
Hmm?
where are you gonna start and where are you gonna land when
Yes,
it's too
it
open? Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, it's too open then, and that is a thing that I'm not cannot stress enough to think about boundaries. Also for the health, we haven't talked about health, staying healthy as an artist, but to complete the cycle to today. So I went on to the sound education as an engineer, and even as a mastering engineer. So I did all my diplomas, and I'm also a mastering engineer. And what was so interesting, uh, we met in this thing called
Cinematic composer.
composing, and in deep super interesting, super deep going harmony, advanced harmony course, and that every thing of music that I produce is highly sound design informed. May it be via the inclusion of unique, myself custom made sound design or custom made instruments, or via the sound choices. For me, sound choice, choosing the right sound that conveys the right emotion is utterly important. And so and you know that everything I did in this uh, class was highly sound design drenched. And then there was Amelia. I am sure you know her.
I just
She was
interviewed her
part
a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, cool. She was in this group, and then we gave we gave each other comments, and then she said, "Oh, uh, you are a composer of sound." And I actually will steal this from her, because she hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I'm a composer of sound. So when I'm composing, I'm directing with sound, or on the, so this is totally connected. And, but it was so interesting.
So the difference here,
She
just to
coined
kind of
it.
break this down, is that a lot of people. So last week I interviewed a songwriter, and I've had a couple songwriters that we've talked about. There's a difference, and that's how I started. I started as a songwriter, writing silly little songs about rainbows and unicorns just to try and,
Cool.
meet. But anyways, but it's writing songs, right? So I would, you're putting on the chords, and then you're going to kind of come up with a melody.
Yeah.
That's so different than like cinematic composing. I quite often find that I forget about harmony. I forget sometimes about melody. I'm
Mhm.
just writing a line,
Mhm.
and then I'm composing around it. And you're hearing a sound, you're hearing a picture,
Yes.
and then you're creating that picture leveraging the sound. And sometimes harmony is a big part of that sound, and sometimes it may not be.
Yeah, exactly.
it's
It's
it's it's it's putting those pieces together. Now,
and
so speaking of your compositions, because I want to tie
yeah,
into this,
great. Yeah.
one of the things that I really really liked about your music, and we were when we were doing this on a weekly basis, we were putting out new pieces of music, and then when sharing comments and so forth. And you had at that time, and I'm sure you kind of go off in different tangents as you create little kind of types. You're in a zone, and you create stuff. So you were creating all kinds of stuff that really had that dark, almost, I don't want to kind of say Danny Elfman, not to pigeonhole anything, but these
That's
dark,
the whole
almost
talk.
horror
Yeah. Yes.
horror
Yes.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then I remember I brought it to your attention. I said, well, because we don't really you wouldn't really want to sit around watching horror movies. That's kind of
So,
depressing. But your
so
stuff was perfect for that. So like,
that's
once we said that, you kind of went,
what's wrong with you?
think about doing something different, because I don't want to look at that. That makes sense. So what have you
But they look at
found?
me. Yeah, I'm not a dark person, but I find it, and maybe this is your question. Sorry for interrupting, but it is for coming from the sound, with the sound ears. Um, I find the horror, or the darker realm, way more juicy. I mean, it lends
Yeah,
itself to the sound treatment so well. So, and maybe also as a counterpart for my positive, I would describe
positive,
myself as
joyful
a
personality.
positive person. It is it's so juicy for me to play with the darker tones. I love it, and I think this is maybe my specialty. I did a lot of now also for Sphere Tracks. I did more than an album, I guess, uh, for crime tension stuff. So crime is also a big part of my uh, uh, vocabulary.
Attention.
Um,
Well, hey, before we get too far, because I want to make sure that we have enough time to get this in.
I,
Um, you did this great film project for a group in Africa, and that's going to evolve, I think, into a series and that sort of thing. Tell us about that experience that you had putting those together, and leave us enough time to kind of come back to some other stories about
okay.
your career and
It
advice.
was yeah, it's currently streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Movie's called Clip Anchor By, and it's a drama. It was shooted in South Africa. It was so interesting for me because I had no clue about I never lived there. I had no, I mean, we heard, but more or less staples of what is African music. But as long as you are not asked to do a special style at this moment, the Amapiano was hot. I had no clue at all what Amapiano is. So, but as I'm a curious person and I want to deliver, so okay, I can do this. I teach myself how to do this, and now I know the different styles, and even I learned that Cape Town is more or less the Cornwall of South Africa. It's all more pastelish. The sound is also different. Joburg is really edgy, and so on. And then there is a huge Afrobeat scene in Nigeria, and it's also it's interesting. Maybe you know that there was Hollywood, and then they had this Bollywood thing in India, and then it's called Nollywood, and the Nollywood is in Nigeria
Oh,
because it's
wow. I didn't know
cheap.
that. That's
You know,
cool.
it's cheap for them to produce there, and it is booming. And it's also advertisement is booming. It is also only hiccup is with the electricity. They have this shutdowns with the yeah what's
Challenge
called,
with power,
yeah,
but
yeah, the power supply is I'm not sure how they solve this in when doing movies, but it is actually quite emerging. It's an emerging market for film,
well, I
and
think
also
Fela Kuti, you're familiar with him. He's from Nigeria, and he had a big influence. He studied in Europe and he toured in the U.S. and he created Afrobeat. It really kind of came out of
yeah,
his style, and
yeah, I
and
had a lot of fun to do this, but I was more or less called to do the tension scenes because that's my forte. But uh, I'm interested in every juicy sound environment, so of course I did Afrobeat, and I loved it, and it was so. And I'm. Do you remember the day when I played a bit, and then
yeah, that was
everybody was shocked?
wonderful.
Dark composer, Queen of Darkness, Brigitte is was
Playing almost a disco track, really. I mean, it's pop disco. Like, oh,
yeah,
I hear, kind of a Seal-esque kind of flavor to it, and it's like, whoa.
yeah, I can do
So
this too. I can
that's the
also
fun
do
thing
this.
about this. This is a journey, and we get to
Yes,
go and explore different,
yes,
you develop a skill set to where you're able to communicate effectively in different musical styles. That's what we learn how to do,
yes,
uh, from whatever perspective and backgrounds we come from. We absorb from around us. So you absorbed a lot from the African cultural music that was happening more of, on this time in this timeline.
yes.
Okay. And 20 years ago it was a different timeline, different
Sure.
flavor. So
Now it's super
whatever.
hot. Yeah, it's everybody in the sync world cries for Afrobeat. I mean, back 5 years ago,
Like
what
what
how
year
can
of Afrobeat, you know what I'm saying? Or what year of jazz, or what year
yeah,
of
yeah,
blues, or what
exactly.
year
Yeah,
of pop, funk,
yeah,
or whatever style that you're gonna, even classical, what era. They all have a
yeah.
different,
Yeah,
uh
70s is Afrobeat is totally different than the modern style. It's more connected to pop. Anyway, so this was interesting, but a lot of um it's a different scenario if you need to deliver on the fly, and so in a chaotic thing. um I, I never no, not never. When I was young, I also
was
did
it
this.
really intense? You had
Yeah,
a lot
not
of
so
stuff to
much
do.
sleep, not so much sleep at all. But it's also on the other side interesting how much you can crank out when you are under stress. But I'm now in this age where I wouldn't recommend it. I love sleep. We were talking
I
about
love my sleep. I'd stay up for 3 days before, but nah, I'm not gonna do it
no,
anymore.
when we cannot do it anymore because we also don't want to do it anymore. And it goes hand in hand. So I don't want to do this, and I can't. And
It's
so
like a
this is
credit card. If you're unemployed,
yeah.
throw your credit card away,
Yeah.
because if you go out and spend being unemployed, it's going to catch up to you and then you're out of gas. And that's the same thing. We know where our energy is,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it'll kill us
Yes.
literally.
I know. I mean, it comes via the years. When I was 20, I was exploiting my
Your
abundance
energy.
of energy, and but I'm probably still. But
You have so much extra. I want to bottle it. Can I get a cup of that? That's
I
good
take
stuff
care
you
of
got.
it more, and I also I also it's not a woo woo, but it's maybe incorporate something like meditation or some kind of yeah balancing, relaxing. Other people do yoga. I like going into nature because nature is so natural. I mean, I love this. Here's a park around. I mean, I live in the center of Berlin. Haha, it's not so much, but Berlin can be green. There, I can go. I can also go to the River Spree, and so it's I I like to be in nature as
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 much
much
as you
as I
can.
can. Thank you.
Well,
As much
I think you brought up a really good point that from it sounds from your experience, and I find the same experience, that it's really important for us as artists, composers, or as just as humans,
as
regardless of what we spend our time doing for our livelihoods and our passions, to find a way to center ourselves.
yes,
'Cause
it's
that
true.
makes us better people, more enjoyable to be around, and it allows us to be able to enjoy our experiences more. You
Yes,
brought up this point of getting to nature, and I think that's just so key because for especially the younger generation that's kind of addicted to their cell phones,
yes,
how many of them can just like put their cell phone on the table and go for a walk and just sit and watch the bugs on a
yeah,
leaf somewhere and feel total tranquility? How
yes,
many of them can slow down to that and get away? And one of the challenges that we have with, I think personally, our environment kind of
hmm,
going to hell is that we've lost touch and
yes,
respect for our mother nature.
yes.
It's more of an inconvenience because it's raining, or it's an inconvenience because
It's
it's
not
too hot or
connected.
too cold or
Connection
whatever. We're not
went in.
connected to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really an important thing that as a society, I
As a
hopefully.
society, but also as, I mean, if you, even as an artist, I mean, you need to
Yeah.
fill your cup. And after this film thing, was happy to be involved, but I was so run out. I was I had I had enough of music for quite a few months because I was
You
so,
don't want to be burnt out. You want to be able
no,
to keep
and
going on and not
exactly, and
feel
this is,
exhausted by it.
and the
So,
industry, if this is the industry, you know, I mean, is this, I mean, this is a totally other topic, surviving as an industry, and also to balance the strategic and the financial, and also the creative decisions. Oh man, this is the topic even with the emerging of AI, but mm, yeah, whatever we do, in whatever high tech form or not, f- we need to relax. If we need to be highly productive and do great stuff, there needs to be time to relax, to take a balance. Otherwise, the body craves this balance. I mean, if the body doesn't get it, it will take it from other ways. I mean, I'm not a person, I never experienced drugs and stuff. I think I've inbuilt drugs, but that's a common thing, that if the body is so stressed that people need alcohol, people need drugs, people need several stimulants to accomplish the balance, and you
if
can
you
do the balance on your own.
yeah, think about this. If I'm in a real stressful situation, a lot's coming at me, I got to take decisions, things going on. Oh, I got to take that phone call. I got to do all this, and now I got to sit down and I have to write an emotional love piece.
Yeah, it's not
The
possible.
tempo
Yeah.
of where I have to go with that is so contrast.
Yes,
So
yes.
being able to kind of put yourself into those relaxed spaces is really important because that's where you start from. You
Mm.
always have to start slow and then you speed up. But if you're speeding up, you really have to be able to control your ability to slow down, I think, to
And
get into those
yeah, and this
spaces.
brings me also to another point. Um, I love tech. I think
Yeah.
you know we are both
Two
highly
geeks, one geek to another. Right
we
on.
are super interested in all the emerging stuff, and I'm curious, and I'm always interested in innovative things. It's part of my DNA. But um, I'm also a very tactile oriented person, and what helps me is I also, because for me creativity is not so bound to, I'm a synesthesia, like hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again.
the guys who see colors when they hear a tone,
Oh, okay.
synesthesis. I look it down, I look it up. Synesthesis. Oh no, that's
See,
bad
there's our
writing.
technology working right for
Yeah,
us
yeah.
right now as we speak. You know,
Synes-
hey kids, we didn't have Google when we were young. We had to go and look at an index card in a library and then see if their book fit. And anyways, it was a
Yeah, I
long
guess.
process.
I
Now we
mean,
have Google and Siri. Be thankful because it's and then artificial intelligence and
Yeah.
It'll answer in a
I
book.
studied also with books. I read my Hegel and my I don't know, my Goethe and my Brecht and my everything in real books. And this is also a joke. When I had the scholarship for Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, Harvard University Theater and Philosophy program, and I went there as a stupid old school European with a suitcase full of books. And I was
Oh, no
arriving
kidding.
there, and they were looking at me like, "What books? We have everything on the pads and the iPads and stuff." And I say, "No, I am out. I love books. Not
I love books
without
too.
my books. Flew in with my books right into nerd camp." This was so funny.
I gotta have my books. It's my books.
Yeah, but I mean, this tactile thing, this is also a huge part of my sound design, because I do this sound design a lot of experience with experiments with organics, with objects, sound design from objects, like doing unique stuff. And I love to have it in my hands. I also draw for relaxing, because I love drawing and I love the visual arts. And this drawing, but you can also journal if you wish. I mean, to have is this thing called pencil.
Pencil.
So
Wow.
such a high tech.
I love this. This is my best
Yeah,
friend.
I love these because it's so, I mean, just a plain piece of paper and a pen. This is so good for me. I'm super interested in all what's going on, but on the other side, I'm a highly analog person, and I also write in such a thing called a journal. I have it; it's in paper, and I love it.
Right, I'm here too. Yeah. I
Ta-ta!
totally. I mean, so as I get older and I have so many ideas. Like have a lot of ideas rolling around your head, and it's like, oh, well, let me catch one. It's like, you're trying to catch them all the time. So I keep that notepad just so I can
Exactly.
remember half the stuff
Yeah,
that I come up with, and then I can go back. Oh, okay,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and just writing it down gives a visual representation.
Headspace.
Help
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
and this is where I get frustrated with people when they're like, well, here, take note of this, and they'll pull up their phone
yeah.
and they'll type it in with their finger. It's not the same.
Not the same.
There-
It's
there-
not embodied. It's not embodied. It's not connected. It's, I mean, I use it when I go for a walk, and I use it also. I sing in the line, or I don't know, I capture something, or I type in something that just
it's
to
a
remember.
tool, but it
But
doesn't replace. It doesn't
no,
replace.
no, it's just an add-on. But it's not. I would never. Yeah, no, it's not the same. So when I met Sefi in Berlin, that from Surtex we talked
Yep.
about, he was also telling me that he's yeah, doing clay, working with clay
Clay, all cool.
as
Yeah.
a sculpture. I mean,
Yeah.
small format, but we felt, because he's also a sound design person, and
Mhm.
this is, I think, I see the sound design, to be honest, what's really interesting for me, because I think of it more on the edge of the visual art and the music. It's
You're
a sitting,
shaping.
yeah, it's
With
sitting on
clay,
the
you're
edge.
shaping. You're
Yes,
drawing shapes with a pen.
I'm a sculptor with sound, and it's utterly the same for me. And it's a sort of visual or sculpting process or practice with the hands, more with the hands. I mean, I have also digital synth stuff, and I'm also a nerdy. I'm now at the moment, I'm super interested in fiddling around with pure data and max MSP. I mean, I have been years ago, but I became a bit lazy about it, but now I'm still hot again. I mean, now it's, I want to do set up I mean, artistic phases. I now I'm after yeah, expanding my palette, doing something utterly crazy, which I haven't done before, just to grow, just to yeah.
If you think about it, like engineering will create a design of something,
Mm-hmm,
and then you go build that structure. Okay.
mm-hmm,
Design a cup.
yeah,
Design a cup. Okay. But creating with sculpting, it's like doing a sketch. You're shaping it, and it doesn't have to be a perfect engineered thing, right? So like in music, or in that would work with visual arts the same way. You're going to erase, you're going to add, you're going to change it. So with music, there's this difference between, sound design, music is sound design is sound. But like traditional music, you're writing, think of it as a very engineered, writing out a score.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't write out a score for shaping a banjo sound that you're mixing with something else that is not necessarily in time. It's just it's a sound. You're shaping it. It's a sound shape versus you don't, there's no other way to articulate that. There's no symbols to,
Yeah, no, no, no.
to structure it. It's just like, describe it.
Yeah,
It's a shape. So because it's still sound, but it's a different place. So I totally see where you're coming from. And
mhm,
that's kind of like a bridge between structured music
mhm,
and a visual arts.
exactly.
You're seeing
Yeah.
it in
It's,
your
it,
ear,
and
and you hear.
sometimes also when I dry out in one media, I instant by instinct switch to the other one, and I have periods when I'm not so much interested. I mean, I'm always interested, not
Yeah.
so interested, not
If your
so
focus
hyper.
changes a
Yeah,
little bit, and that
keen
helps
on this.
recharge you, I bet.
Exactly, and then I come back and I'm in an utter. You heard this thing. You can't jump in the same river twice. I mean, you can come back, but then you're not the same. Every day we are not the same. We hear different stuff. We eat a meal. We discover a new culture. I hear another song. I read a book that influences me. So we are evolving all the time. And then this is interesting and. So
So for composers, I want to try and get through this because we're just getting close to
cool.
the end.
Do it.
So for other composers, what advice would you give them in a quick, what advice would you give them on their journey to become a better composer? What should they think about and pay attention to?
Limitation, number one, limitation. Uh, take your, I mean, it's all fascinating. All the things that needs to be, yeah, that you can buy and this experience, but
Give
just take
yourself
your
a boundary, is what you're
yeah,
saying. Give
just
yourself
take
a
your
boundary.
door. I mean, I happen to I mean, I also go back and forth with Pro Tools and other stuff. So I have,
That was my next question. What
but
is your favorite DAW?
I produce in Logic. As I told you, I grew up in Pro Tools, but I don't like producing in Pro Tools. It was, yeah, more for recording and stuff. Sound design, I also go back and forth. It has also several reasons, but for producing music and finalizing stuff, I mean, producing. My DAW is Logic. If you don't need to buy stuff, just don't buy stuff. I have tons of libraries. I have tons of strings, tons of percussion, tons of everything which I don't use. I and we are on the in a time in history where the uniqueness isn't is the cry for uniqueness is loud as never before. So don't buy the stuff that others buy. Don't use the tools that others use. Just open your door and try to pick out one unsexy tool. Maybe the more unsexy, the better. A tiny something. I mean, there are fantastic, I don't know, FM
Free
synthesis,
library. Yeah.
built-in stuff. But you can do such great things. You can shape the sound. You can do it your own or record your own stuff. So find your own voice, go your own way, resist to every marketing trick. They want to sell this shit, and I mean, I'm not
Yes.
I'm I'm not of the hook. I mean, I also buy from time to time if I'm interested, but I'm not now in a moment where I have more toys that I could ever play with. So
I think
and what is interesting for me, what I do, and then I don't use this. And also with the business side, all the
it's
music
nice to
life.
have some of the things around. If you need to, if you are doing this kind of for a living and
Yes,
not just the creative side, and you need to have a particular kind of sound,
sure.
yes. it's good to have those as availability. But
Yeah,
to your point, it's really important to just, start with a clear palette.
yeah,
For some things it makes sense to have a template, and other things, start with a clean slate
yes,
and just like jump right in and
exactly. And it is you were asking how to grow. So I mean, to go to a point where you then grow. I mean, growing takes place all the time, but uh, you know what I mean. I mean, to have the bread and butter stuff is also good. I'm not talking against it, but to grow, to really
yeah,
take
that's where you
aside, I would advise it. I work in chunks of 90 minutes. Everything I do 90 minutes, and then I take a break
right.
because
Good plan.
I
That's
need to yeah, jump out off this desk here. Otherwise, I would sit down the whole night, and this I love it, but it's not good for me. I know, so I need to go out with me like a dog. I need to plan it because otherwise it won't happen. So I
You know
would say,
what? The Apple Watch is great.
yeah,
It's like it's time to stand up. I'm like,
yes,
oh my
exactly,
God,
yeah,
it
exactly.
knows that I need this is
And then
great.
you get your fireworks, right? You get your firework, and then yeah, but I don't have this fancy too, but I know, and it's good. But you can do you can have online web in the internet, find the
Line,
timer,
yeah,
or your
give
phone
yourself
or
that
whatever.
that's a parameter. That's great.
Set aside a dedicated I would say it growth is about doing stuff regularly over a longer period of time. Don't rush it, but just do it, and not do something 8 hours and then 2 months off. This is bad for growth. It needs to have a continuity. And I'm
Consistent.
looking
Yes.
for more what is the skill that I want to develop more. And I mean, you can choose it, and I would write it down in your journal and commit to it and say, okay, I want to, I don't know, this month I want to commit to internalize the logic shortcuts more, because then you speed up. It's in your muscle memory. And then, okay, just do it. And then allocate, I would say 90 minutes, but you can choose whatever you want, 30 minutes, and then allocate a certain time slot, and then, yeah, commit to a period, how you would like to do it, like 3 times a week, or every day, or 1 time a week, but be consistent in it. Just allocate it, decide it with the head, write it down, commit to it, and then measure it with
Well,
a,
and that
yeah,
that that comes that to that whole point of balance. Being balanced, having having your life organized and having a plan.
yes,
You need to do that, I guess, for business, right? And this is going to be my next question. And we're going along, so I want to come
but
close
sorry.
to an end here. I just love talking to you. This is great, but um, from a business side, you talked about being organized. That's really important. Not only if you're an engineer, or not only if you're a musician and you have to practice and you have to prepare for your gigs, if it's live stuff, or if you're a composer and you need to learn, like you had a trick that you were saying, I'm going to learn a new shortcut every week, and
Mhm.
you're just going to practice that. You're going to put your sticky up on your computer, and once you learn it and you've gotten in the habit of using it, then it's part of your vocabulary.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
so fulfilling. I mean, you did something, you
and
completed
you
something.
go and you've increased your speed in being able to work. You've increased your ability to communicate an idea, whether it's through harmony, whether it's through some type of sound design,
Even if it's one
whether
a
it's
week, then you are, yeah, then yeah, you
that
can come.
consistency.
Yeah,
And I think that, that's really important for people to keep from getting burnt out, because it's really easy to be so passionate about this that you just want to stay up for 3 days to finish it. And I struggle with that, because I'm a little bit obsessive
struggle.
compulsive.
Yeah, we see
And I will like
everybody.
when I get a creative idea, that this is the plague of being creative,
Yeah,
is I
you
get a creative
get to
idea, I can't stop until it's done or it's out,
see
or at
also,
least I write it down,
yeah, yeah,
or something. There has to be a step taken, or I just, when there's a problem in my life, in my world, I
yes,
have to sit there and dwell on it until that's the answer.
yes.
Ah, thank
Yeah, this
God.
is so
Figured it
so.
out.
I mean, this is I'm sharing this because I'm not of the hook here too. But I struggle with this myself. But you can struggle, you can fall, but as long as you get get back on track, then it's
That's
all
like,
good. And
what's that movie Up? Have you seen it? The
no,
movie Up? Squirrel.
yeah,
There's this thing,
yeah,
squirrel. And
yeah,
all the dogs look over there.
yeah,
Something
yeah,
really important's going on, but squirrel. And they're looking.
yeah, exactly.
I totally suffer from
And
that.
the
But
problem
just
is
being able to
also
get back.
sometimes if you have stress or need to finish something and you're so consumed in a topic, or and then some people forget to eat. I also forget to eat or forget to just not sit down. I literally
Move
sit down the
around.
whole night until it's. I mean, if the song is calling for, and it's finished the next morning, but yeah, the night is away, and so I need to learn to to get up. I mean, 90 minutes is over. I get up. I just I go out. It's just I don't care. It's I'm out.
Well, and I think that's a good discipline. And that discipline, that ability to discipline yourself, I think is going to help most people.
Yeah, yeah. Discipline
So
is
any
a thing.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this to a close. So any closing ideas, comments, things you want to share coming up?
Um. Yeah. We talked about sphere tracks. This is the deal of the month, and I'm super
Yeah.
excited about it. And yeah, I
Okay. Oh, wait. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me get two quick things out there. One, what artist of any artist out there in the world has had the biggest influence on you that you went, wow, they just that they touched me?
Cézanne,
What's that?
Paul Cézanne, the painter.
Oh, wow.
He was also the muse for Picasso. This guy was amazing. It was. I mean, I'm in an advantage because I was had this exhibition at Museum of Modern Arts, and they flew me to his studio in Aix-en-Provence, south of France, and I was. It just took my breath away. This,
Awesome.
yeah. Paul
So
Cézanne.
we could probably go off on talking about that for another hour.
He invented the cubism in a way. So multi perspectives in one, and Picasso uh, finished this idea. What his Cézanne was the inventor. Picasso was good at stealing. Every good artist is also needs to have a clue what's on, and Picasso took it from him,
The ideas and
made it famous. But the idea is from Cézanne.
well, that's what we're dealing with a lot
Cubism.
of. As creative people. We're
Mhm.
dealing with ideas that come in our head,
Yeah.
and some of them are unique and original, and sometimes they're unique and original interpretations or the combinations of ideas
I would
that.
say, as an advice, stay open. Go to a museum. Go read a book, a real book. I mean, not on the iPhone, a real book, a book, just to have something, to be inspired in a way, to see other perspectives that you're not used to. Just do something for you to nurture your inner artist in a way.
What's next for Bridget? What do you what's in your next 5 year? What's the next cool big thing you're gonna do?
Next 5 years.
Yes, next 5 years. Well, yeah. What's the next big thing for you? What are you
The
gonna go
next
off
big
and-
thing, yeah, the next big thing is yeah, to do to go on with the in the licensing music, but I will stick to I the plan is to be. I mean, I was to this day. I mean, I think I have a unique tone, but
Mhm.
I will nurture this even more. So at the moment, I see I'm so fascinated by the idea that I want to yeah, have my sound. I want to, and I see I want to do the unique sound design thing, and I also think about teaching this. Next 5 years, I will also do mentoring other people to develop this voice. Um,
I'm gonna sign up. I'll be your first student. Well, and one of the things that you really have done well is just that, and that's one of the hardest things for artists, to do is come up with their own original sound. And you have done that. So now it's a matter of where you're
Yeah,
going to take that, and you have so much great opportunities ahead of you. I really want to thank you for taking the time today and sharing your story. There's so much we're going to have to do a
was
part two because
it
there's
was
so
a
much more
pleasure.
to go into.
Yeah, I'm up for it. So just yeah, tell me when I will be back. It
That
was
would be that
I
would be
enjoyed it, utterly enjoyed talking with you. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk with you and about these topics. Oh man, I mean, and it's also it needs to be shared. That's why I love your new endeavor here to share it with
well,
the people.
if we can all help each other, it's just going to lift the tides for all of us as
Yeah,
composers. We're going to learn more and have more fun stuff to play with, which is
yes,
cool. And
yes.
whether it's ideas or toys or tools or whatever.
So
So,
if life would be a game, is would be a game, I would say I entered a new level. I'm in a new
right. So
level.
this is the I hear the little wooka wooka wooka, and I hear the quotation by Brigitte. So thank you so much for joining me today. Look down below, listen to her music. It's fantastic. It's really wonderful.
Thank
And
you.
stay tuned. Hopefully you'll come and join us on some of our sessions again with
Will be
our
there.
harmony group and so forth and scoring the picture. Find out
Yeah.
more about the Composer Exchange if you'd like. Check out both of our music on spheretracks.com, and
Yes.
we'll have more information down there. And you're going to see more of Bridget. And remember, if you come here, be sharp and end on a high note. That's what I say.
Why is
Anyways,
your tagline? So
thank you
stay
very much.
creative. Yeah.
Take care.